My name is Natalie, and by the time I turned 23, I had already mastered the art of pretending that cruel jokes didn't hurt. Growing up, adopted in a family that loved appearances more than honesty, taught me that lesson early. That night in San Francisco, under chandeliers glittering over crisp white tablecloths and a panoramic view of the bay, I wasn't thinking about revenge. I was just trying to survive another happy family dinner. I slid into my seat in a simple red dress, the one I'd bought on sale after 3 night shifts, telling myself I could blend into the background and get through the night. I knew my sister would be the star. Charlotte always was. Loud, charming, beautiful in a way that made waiters lean in and teachers overlook her attitude. I'd lived in her shadow for so long that it almost felt natural. Almost. When she stood up and clinked her glass, I already felt my stomach tighten. "Cheers to our real family," she announced, her voice slicing through the restaurant chatter. People at nearby tables glanced over, drawn in by her confidence. Then she turned, eyes glittering as they landed on me. "Except the girl in the red dress," she added, smirking. "She's just adopted." Laughter burst around me like a firecracker. It wasn't just my parents and relatives at that long table. Charlotte had invited friends, co-workers, anyone who could applaud her performance. For a second, my fork hovered halfway to my mouth. Heat rushed to my face, but I forced my jaw to move, forced myself to chew like nothing happened. I'd heard variations of that joke my whole life, but this time, something felt different. Like a wire finally snapping deep inside my chest. I stared at my plate while the echoes of their amusement bounced off the walls. Have you ever watched a room laugh at your pain and wondered if you were the only sane person there? I told myself to breathe, to keep my head down, to get through the evening like always. But then the manager arrived, holding a leather folder, professional smile barely hiding his curiosity as he glanced at our chaotic table. "I hope you've all enjoyed your evening," he said politely. "I just need to confirm, who will be settling the $5,000 bill tonight?" $5,000. The number landed like a hammer. The table went quiet. Charlotte's smile faltered as attention swung from me to her, then to our parents, then back. I don't know what snapped in that moment. Maybe it was years of being the punchline, or maybe it was the way my mother shifted, as if waiting for me to somehow make everyone feel comfortable again. Instead, I straightened my back, turned to the manager, and let a small, deliberate smile curl my lips. "She will," I said, pointing my thumb at Charlotte. "Let her and her real family handle it. After all, I'm just adopted, right? This is only the beginning." The room froze. A server dropped a spoon somewhere behind us. Charlotte's face drained of color as the weight of my words and the $5,000 check landed squarely in her lap. She'd wanted a joke. I'd just given her a punchline she couldn't control. Before I tell you what happened after that bill landed on the table and how this one dinner pushed our family to the breaking point, tell me, what time is it for you right now? And where are you watching from? I'm honestly curious to see how far this story will travel. For a few long seconds, the whole restaurant seemed to hold its breath. The manager's question still hung in the air as Charlotte stared at the bill like it might explode. "You're kidding, right?" she said, voice sharp with forced laughter. "Natalie, sit down. Don't be weird." I didn't. "You just toasted the real family and made it clear I'm not part of it," I replied, keeping my tone calm. "So it wouldn't make sense for the not real one to pay for a real family celebration, would it?" My mother jumped in with a tight smile, trying to smooth it over. "There's no problem," she told the manager. "We're just joking. We'll handle the bill." But the manager's frown didn't disappear. "With respect, ma'am, jokes about someone not being real family, especially when they're adopted, aren't exactly harmless," he said evenly. "I just want to make sure everyone here is treated fairly." His words burned more than Charlotte's toast because they made something very clear. A stranger saw the problem faster than my family ever had. Charlotte bristled. "We're fine. It's just how we joke," she insisted, then shot me a look. "Right, Nat." The nickname sounded like a chain. I remembered being 8, holding my school photo while she joked about putting it in a "Before We Got Our Real Kid" album. Everyone laughing, my parents telling me not to be so sensitive. Tonight was just a bigger stage and a bigger bill. If this is your idea of joking, then we really do have different definitions of family, I said. My father finally spoke, eyes hard. "Natalie, you're making a scene," he muttered. "We can discuss this later." That old line, my cue to shrink, to apologize, to swallow it all. Instead, I shook my head. "I'm done being the scene you all laugh at," I answered. "Have you ever realized in one instant that keeping the peace has only ever meant keeping yourself small?" Charlotte scoffed louder, trying to win the crowd back. "She's always like this," she told her friends, "so dramatic about being adopted. We gave you a great life, Nat. You should be grateful instead of attacking me over a joke." I met her gaze. "Gratitude doesn't mean letting you use my adoption as a prop," I said. "It doesn't mean paying the bill for a family I'm reminded I don't really belong to." The manager, sensing the moment, stepped closer and placed the check in front of Charlotte. "I'll give you a few minutes," he said. "If you'd like, we can split the bill by seat. But we won't let someone be singled out and then stuck with the cost." Then he walked away, leaving the weight of his words on the table along with the money. My mother leaned toward Charlotte, whispering urgently, "Just pay it. We'll reimburse you later." That one word, reimburse, was the mask slipping. Of course they'd quietly fix it later, make sure their golden child suffered as little as possible, keep everything looking perfect from the outside. "No," I cut in. "You laughed at me in public. You can deal with the fallout in public, too. If you want to fix something, start by realizing I'm not a joke." My father glared, but for once, he didn't tell me to apologize. Charlotte's friends shifted, discomfort written all over their faces. One of them murmured, "Char, that toast was kinda harsh." And I watched the realization flicker across my sister's features. For the first time, people weren't automatically on her side. That night, the first crack in her perfect image didn't come from my anger, but from her own words finally catching up with her. The rest of the dinner felt like standing on a fault line. Dessert arrived and went untouched. Coffee cooled in cups no one raised, and the only thing moving freely was tension, slipping from person to person. Charlotte kept flipping the bill folder open and shut, as if the numbers might change if she clicked it enough times. "You made me look horrible," she hissed at me between clenched teeth. "My friends think I'm some kind of monster now." "You did that yourself when you raised that glass," I replied. My father, still trying to be the calm center, finally said, "Charlotte, we can't pretend what you said was okay. You crossed a line. It may have been a joke to you, but it clearly wasn't to your sister." Charlotte stared at him like she didn't recognize him. "So you're on her side now?" she demanded. "All these years I've been the one making you proud, and suddenly I'm the villain because she can't take a joke?" The word years lit up a string of memories in my head. The credit card incident where she blamed her designer spree on me and let me take the shame. The family pictures where she nudged me out for a just us shot. The nights she told friends Mom and Dad rescued me and everyone laughed. "This isn't new," I said quietly. "The restaurant just made it harder to hide." My mother tried again, voice shaky. "We never meant to make you feel less, Natalie," she said. "We thought you understood that we love you." "Love doesn't sound like people laughing when I'm reminded I don't share your DNA," I cut in. "Love doesn't leave me hanging out to dry so your image stays clean." Then I turned to my sister. "Do you remember junior year and Mom's credit card?" Her eyes widened. "Shut up," she muttered. That has nothing to do with this. It does, I said. Because Mom believed you when you implied I was the one who'd used it. She told me, we didn't raise you like this, while you watched. You knew who'd really bought that bag. You just knew who they'd assume was guilty. My mother's face drained of color as she looked between us. Charlotte, she whispered, is that true? For once, Charlotte didn't have a quick answer. Her silence was loud enough. Have you ever watched someone realize their favorite story about themselves? That they're fair, loving, good, doesn't match the evidence? My father's voice hardened. We'll talk about that later, he said, eyes on Charlotte. Right now, this bill needs to be paid and respect needs to be restored. He gestured to the manager, who reappeared like he'd been orbiting nearby waiting for the signal. Split the check, my father told him. Half on our card, half on my daughter Charlotte's. Natalie's meal goes on ours. I shook my head. No. Put mine separate, I said. I'll pay for myself. My mother frowned, confused. You don't have to prove anything, she said. We can cover it. I'm not proving anything, I replied. I'm just making it clear I'm not here out of obligation or charity. I'm here because I chose this family. If that choice isn't mutual, I need to know. The manager nodded, jotting notes, and left again. Charlotte stared at me, fury and something like fear mixing in her expression. For the first time, she couldn't twist the narrative into dramatic adopted girl overreacts. People had seen. My parents had heard. A bill was being split, consequences included. As we finally got up to leave, chairs scraping against polished floors, I realized this wasn't just the end of a bad dinner. It was the moment the old script. Me quiet, her shining, my parents looking away, started to burn. He drive home was quiet in the loudest way. City lights smeared across the car windows while I sat in the back seat, watching the reflections of my parents' faces in the front and Charlotte's rigid profile beside me. No one rushed to break the silence. It felt like speaking too soon might trigger another explosion. Eventually, Charlotte's composure cracked. I can't believe you let her do that to me, she burst out, leaning between the front seats. Dad, Mom, she destroyed me in front of everyone. My friends are never going to forget this. My father kept his eyes on the road. You destroyed yourself the moment you made that toast, he said evenly. We laughed when we shouldn't have. That's on us. But you lit the match. It was a joke, she insisted. They all know that. She turned it into some big trauma scene. She always does. I stared at the back of her head. I turned it into honesty, I said. You're just not used to hearing it said out loud. My mother twisted in her seat to look at me. Natalie, you could have talked to us at home, she said, sounding more hurt by the public confrontation than by the years of comments. Calling your sister out like that in front of everyone. It embarrassed all of us. There it was. Embarrassment ranking higher than emotional damage. I've been talking, I said quietly. You just called it being sensitive every time. Tonight was the first time anyone outside this family confirmed I wasn't crazy. Have you ever realized the only way to be heard in your own family is to let strangers witness the truth with you? We rolled over the bridge, city glow reflecting off the water below, and my father finally spoke again. When we adopted you, he said slowly, we promised we'd treat you no differently than a biological child. I thought loving you was enough. I didn't see how easily we let jokes slide because they didn't target us. He paused. That's on me. His words made something in my chest ache. I wanted to believe him, but apologies without change were just polished band-aids. Charlotte scoffed. So now I'm the bad guy and she's the saint? She muttered. You two have always babied her. I laughed softly, unable to help it. Babied me? I repeated. You've spent years reminding everyone that I should be grateful to even be here. No one responded. When we pulled into the driveway, Charlotte flung her door open and stormed inside without waiting. My parents moved slower, weighed down by everything unsaid. I stayed in the car an extra minute, staring at the house that held every version of me, from the hopeful little girl clutching an adoption folder to the woman who just publicly refused to be the punchline. I checked my phone and saw a text from Oliver. "Still alive? Need a recap later?" I typed back, "Yes and yes. Tomorrow." His reply was instant. "Tomorrow. Coffee on me. We'll unpack it." As I finally stepped out and walked up the path, the porch light bathing me in a soft, familiar glow, I realized something simple but terrifying. If things stayed the same after tonight, it would be because I chose to stay. And for the first time, I wasn't sure I would. Days after the dinner felt like moving through a house made of eggshells. On the surface, routines stayed the same. Work, dishes, my mother's TV shows in the evening. But underneath, the air was wired. Charlotte barely spoke to me, except for the occasional muttered comment about me loving attention. My parents ping-ponged between awkward kindness and careful distance. Instead of letting the tension suffocate me, I decided to treat it like a sign. Either I'd sink back into my old role, or I'd use this fracture as a doorway into a different life. That's what I told Oliver at our coffee shop the next day. He listened, brow furrowed as I recounted every detail. The toast, the manager, the split bill, the car ride. "I knew they were weird about your adoption," he said slowly. "But that wasn't just weird, that was systematic. Like they got used to you being the butt of the joke." "Exactly," I said. "And now that I pushed back, they act like I detonated a bomb." "Maybe you did," he replied, "but maybe that bomb needed to go off." He pulled out a pen and started writing on a napkin. "Okay, strategy. Step 1, emotional boundaries. Step 2, financial and physical independence. Step 3, decide what type of relationship you want once you're not trapped." I stared at him. "You make it sound so structured." "Because it has to be," he said. "If you go into this raw, you'll either explode or fold. Neither helps you." He asked about my savings, my job, whether I could realistically afford a small place. The answer, to my surprise, was yes. Barely, but yes. "Then start planning as if you're leaving," he said. "Even if you don't move for months, knowing you can will change how you carry yourself in that house. Have you ever realized the moment you acknowledge an exit exists, the cage loses some of its power?" That evening, I messaged Charlotte. "Meet me at the park tomorrow at 6. No audience. Just us." She replied, "I don't owe you anything, but fine." The next day, under a pale sky and the distant sound of kids playing, she showed up in sunglasses and attitude. "Say what you need to say," she snapped. "I have plans." "So do I answered. "And they don't include letting you use my adoption as your favorite bit anymore." I told her I was looking for apartments, that I was serious about moving out, that I was done being the grateful outsider. She stared at me like I'd announced I was moving to another planet. "You'd really leave over a joke?" she demanded. "Over a lifetime of them," I corrected. "Over being reminded again and again that I'm not real. Over you using my adoption to elevate yourself." Her shoulders dropped a fraction. "I don't know how to stop," she admitted quietly after a moment. "It's just how it's always been." "Then learn," I said. "Start with this. No more real family comments. No more charity case jokes. If you mess up, own it instead of telling me I'm too sensitive. Whether I live here or not, that's the bare minimum if you want me in your life." It wasn't a dramatic shouting match. It was cleaner, sharper, a line drawn in the dirt between us. Whether she stepped over it or not would be on her. The days after our park conversation blurred together, but they carried a different flavor than the days before. It was like I'd finally flipped a hidden switch. Once I'd said out loud that I was leaving, Every corner of the house looked less like a home and more like a museum of a life I'd outgrown. I started quietly packing pieces of myself away, old notebooks, framed photos I actually liked, small tokens that reminded me of who I was outside of the adopted one. Each object slipped into a box felt like reclaiming a fragment of my story. Meanwhile, the tension with Charlotte didn't vanish. It just mutated. Instead of open jabs, she resorted to icy silence or muttered comments when she thought I couldn't hear. "She thinks she's too good for us now," I overheard her say one afternoon in the kitchen to my mother. "Just wait. She'll come crawling back when real life hits." I walked in, opened the fridge, took out a bottle of water, and decided not to pretend I hadn't heard. "Real life already hit," I said calmly, twisting off the cap. "It hit every time you called me a guest in my own family." Charlotte spun around, eyes flashing. "There you go again," she snapped, turning everything into some trauma story. "Not everything is about your adoption, Natalie." "You're the one who keeps bringing it up," I reminded her. "In every fight, every joke, every toast. If you're tired of hearing about it, imagine how tired I am of living it." She rolled her eyes dramatically. "You're unbelievable." My mother stepped in then, wiping her hands on a dish towel, trying to play peacemaker like always. "Girls, please," she said. "Can we just have one day without arguing? Your father wants us all to sit down this weekend and talk calmly. He thinks a family meeting will help." A family meeting? The phrase alone made my stomach tighten. It sounded official, like an intervention. The kind I'd always imagined would be about someone else, never about the way I'd been treated. "Fine," I said. "But I'm not going to that meeting just to hear why I should be less sensitive. If we're doing this, we're doing it honestly." "Honestly?" Charlotte muttered under her breath. "You just want another stage." I turned to face her fully. "You want honesty? Let's do it in reverse," I said. "Let's start from the end and work backward." She frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about how every joke you made didn't start as a joke," I said. "It started as a decision. The last time you called me a charity case was 3 months ago at Aunt Linda's barbecue, remember? You said, 'We literally saved you, Nat. You could at least bring the drinks.' Everyone laughed, and when I went inside, you followed and said, 'Don't make this a big deal.' That wasn't spontaneous. That was years of you testing how far you could go." Images flickered in my mind, not in chronological order, but in emotional order. The deepest cut rising to the surface first. "Then there was the time in high school," I continued, my voice steady. "You told your friends that when I misbehaved, Mom threatened to return me. They thought it was hilarious. I pretended I did too. Later that night, I heard you telling Mom I was being moody, and maybe it was a biological thing from my real parents." My mother winced, looking down at the floor. "Natalie, I'm not saying this to hurt you," I said. "I'm saying this because if we're going to pretend this all came out of nowhere at that restaurant, we're lying to ourselves. Have you ever rewound your past in your head and realized all the little harmless comments were actually scenes in a long, cruel movie you never agreed to star in?" Charlotte's bravado faded a little. "I was a kid," she muttered. "We both were." "We're not kids now," I replied, "and the fact that you still toast to real family tells me you never really grew out of it." My mother rubbed her forehead. "This is exactly why your father wants a meeting," she said. "He's right. We can't keep having these half-arguments in hallways." She looked at both of us, eyes tired. Saturday. Living room. All of us. No yelling. No walking away. I thought of walking away right then, of leaving the house and not coming back until after Saturday, just to prove I didn't need their permission to exist. But something deeper held me in place. Maybe, just maybe, Finally laying everything out would not only strip Charlotte of her unchallenged power, but also force my parents to see the cost of their silence. That night, I texted Oliver, "Family meeting Saturday. It might get ugly." He replied, "Ugly is where truth tends to show up. Remember your plan. Boundaries, independence, then decision. Don't let them rewrite this." As Saturday crept closer, I kept packing small things into boxes. I wasn't sure if I'd move out next week, next month, or 6 months from now. But every packed box was a promise to myself. I wasn't stuck anymore. If this meeting turned into another session of "Don't rock the boat," I was ready to step off it altogether and swim. Saturday arrived with a gray, overcast sky that made the house feel heavier than usual. I woke up before my alarm, nerves buzzing under my skin, and sat on the edge of my bed staring at the half-packed boxes lining the wall. This meeting could change everything, or confirm that nothing would. Either way, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't leaving that living room the same person who walked into it. My parents had set up the space like neutral territory. The coffee table was cleared, the TV off, the usual background noise of news or sports replaced by an uneasy quiet. Charlotte was already on the couch when I came in, arms crossed, leg bouncing impatiently. My father stood by the window, hands in his pockets, while my mother arranged mugs of tea like they were peace offerings. I took a seat opposite Charlotte, refusing to shrink into a corner. "Thank you all for coming," my father began, sounding more like a mediator than a dad. "I know things have been tense since the dinner." I let out a small, humorless breath. "That's one word for it," I said. "It was humiliating," Charlotte cut in, "for all of us. My friends still ask me what happened. They think we're crazy." My father looked at her. "They probably think that because they watched you toast to real family while excluding your sister," he said. "That's what they'll remember, not the bill." Charlotte blinked, caught off guard by his directness. My mother cleared her throat. "We're not here to point fingers," she said. "We're here to listen, truly listen. Natalie, since you've been the one most hurt, would you like to start?" The question landed on me like a weight and a release at the same time. I took a deep breath. "This isn't just about one dinner," I began. "It's about a pattern. For years, I've been treated like the extra, the one you saved, the one who should be grateful, the one whose place at this table always felt conditional." I looked at Charlotte. "You were allowed to make jokes about my adoption, about being returned, about not being real. And the response was always the same. Laughter. Then, 'Don't be so sensitive, Natalie.' That combination taught me something, whether you meant it to or not, that my pain was acceptable collateral for your comfort." My mother's eyes glistened. My father's jaw tightened. Charlotte shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. "At that restaurant," I continued, "you didn't just joke. You raised a glass and told a room full of strangers that I wasn't part of the real family. And when everyone laughed, I realized I'd either keep swallowing this forever or finally stand up, even if my voice shook." I paused. I chose to stand up. Have you ever felt your whole life narrowing down to one decision: stay quiet and stay small, or speak and risk breaking everything? My father sat down then, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "You're right," he said quietly. "We let it go on too long. I let it go on too long. When we adopted you, I thought loving you would be enough. I didn't realize how much work it would take to protect you from casual cruelty, even inside our home." He glanced at Charlotte. "And I failed at that." Charlotte's eyes widened. "So I'm just a monster now?" she demanded. "Is that it? I'm the villain, you're the saint, and Mom and Dad are the clueless bystanders?" "If that's the story you hear, that's on you," I replied, keeping my voice even. "I'm not asking you to make me the saint. I'm asking you to stop making me the punchline. My mother reached for Charlotte's hand, but she pulled away. You don't get it, Charlotte said, her voice wobbling for the first time. Do you have any idea what it was like when they brought you home? Everyone made such a big deal about it. You're such good people for adopting. What a generous thing to do. They praised them constantly, and you were the symbol of their goodness. I felt like I had to be perfect just to compete. She laughed bitterly, eyes shining. So yeah, I made jokes. I leaned into it. I told myself if I made it a running gag, then I was in control. That I could keep you in this little box where you were grateful and I was irreplaceable. For a moment, I saw not the polished, cruel sister who owned every room, but a scared girl who'd clawed for attention in the only way she understood. You could have just talked to me, I said softly. I was right here this whole time. Tears slipped down her cheeks, streaking her carefully done makeup. I didn't know how, she admitted, and by the time I could have tried, the jokes were who I was. I didn't know how to be your sister without them. Here's the thing, I said. You're not the only one who built an identity around this. I spent years being the adopted one, the grateful one, the quiet one, the one who didn't rock the boat. I thought if I just proved myself enough, I'd stop feeling like a guest. I sat up straighter. I'm done with that. I'm not asking for more love than you got. I'm asking for equal respect. If you can't give me that, then I can't stay in this house pretending everything's fine. My mother's head snapped up. What do you mean, can't stay? I met her gaze. I've been looking at apartments, I said. I haven't signed anything yet. But I will. Soon. The words hung between us like a drawn line. This was my final act of revenge. Not screaming, not dramatic ultimatums, but a simple declaration. I will build a life where I am not optional. So you're just leaving? My mother whispered. After everything? I'm not leaving to punish you, I said. I'm leaving to protect myself, because I can't heal while sleeping under the same roof where my worth is up for debate. My father closed his eyes for a moment, then nodded slowly. Our team at Revenge Mangan is dedicated to creating powerful, meaningful storylines that explore family conflicts, emotions, and personal growth. We want to remind viewers that